I worked 2 jobs to help my younger brother through medical school. I skipped birthdays, sold my car, and took out loans in my name. At his graduation, he thanked everyone except me. Later that week, I found out he'd bought a house and put our estranged father on the deed. "He's blood," my brother said. "You're just someone who filled in the gaps." I didn't say a word, but the letter I sent to the licensing board included documents that would force them to reevaluate. I don't know if this counts as revenge or just setting the record straight. But either way, I stopped feeling guilty a long time ago. When our mom died, I was 27. My little brother Ethan was 17 and still a kid in every way that mattered. He cried himself to sleep for weeks. I didn't have time to. I was in court within days, fighting to be named his guardian. There was no one else. Dad was long gone. Walked out when Ethan was 5 and never sent a dime. I still remember Mom pacing in the kitchen, saying over and over, "We're gonna be okay."
She meant it.
She just didn't live long enough to see it through. After she passed, I moved Ethan into my tiny apartment in Butler, Pennsylvania. 1 bedroom. I gave him the bed and slept on the pull-out. I worked a full-time shift loading trucks at a grocery warehouse and picked up extra shifts at a gas station every weekend. I didn't go out. I didn't date. Every dollar I made went into keeping us afloat. Ethan was smart. Everyone said it. Teachers, counselors, even his friends. He had a gift. He wanted to go to med school. So, I told him we'd make it happen.
I didn't know how yet.
But I'd figure it out. And I did. Over the next 7 years, I gave up everything to get him through. I sold my car and rode a bike to work for 3 years. I missed birthdays, holidays, weddings. Took out private loans in my name when federal aid didn't cover everything. One of those loans required a cosigner, and I used Ethan's info without telling him. I know how that sounds, but I wasn't stealing from him. I was covering for him. The loan was for his tuition. Without it, he wouldn't have graduated. He lived with me through undergrad, then through med school. I paid for rent, books, groceries, scrubs, even his internet bill. He never asked me to, but he never offered to help either. I'd come home from working 13-hour days and see him on the couch playing Xbox. He always said, "I can't afford to burn out." I bit my tongue. Every time. I started to notice a change during his last year. He started calling me Derek instead of bro. He stopped checking in. He was always busy. I figured he was stressed. Finals, rotations, interviews. I told myself he'd come back around after graduation. Graduation day came. I bought a new shirt from Goodwill and ironed it 5 times trying to make it look decent. I showed up an hour early and sat in the back. I watched him walk across the stage in his cap and gown and felt something like pride and heartbreak mixed together. Then he gave his speech. He thanked his professors, his classmates, his lab partners, his roommate, even the cafeteria staff.
Not one word about me.
Nothing. After the ceremony, he came up and gave me a side hug. Said, "Hey man, thanks for coming." That was it. No emotion. Like I was just some neighbor who dropped by. I drove home alone that night and sat in my dark apartment staring at the wall for 2 hours. I told myself I was being dramatic. That maybe he'd say something later in private. Maybe he just froze up. 3 days later, I found out about the house. A friend of mine from high school works in real estate and sent me a listing link with a message. "Hey, isn't this your brother? Thought you'd want to see." He'd bought a house in Mount Lebanon. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. Newly remodeled. Big backyard. I stared at the listing for 10 minutes before I clicked the public records. And that's where I saw it. Owner, Ethan M. Last name, co-owner, Robert J. Last name, our dad. Our father, who abandoned us. The man who left mom with 2 kids and no support. The man who never showed up to a single birthday or holiday. The man Ethan used to cry about at night when he was little. That man was now on the deed to Ethan's new house. I called him, straight up. "Why is Dad on the house deed?" He was quiet for a second. Then he said it like it was nothing. "He's blood, Derek." I didn't even know how to respond. I think I laughed, but not because it was funny. You're putting the man who left us on your house. And I'm nothing? You're not nothing. You just filled in the gaps. That's what he said. Filled in the gaps. Like I was a backup generator. Like I was a placeholder until the real thing came back. I hung up. I didn't argue. I didn't curse. I didn't even cry. I just sat there. I think I stared at my coffee table for 2 straight hours. Then I opened my file cabinet. I kept everything. Loan documents, emails, screenshots, copies of forms we submitted for his rotations, including the one where we claimed he volunteered at a clinic for 6 months when he never stepped foot inside. I'd helped him write that one. Padded it, made it look good. I figured I was helping. Everyone fluffs a little, right? But now I had leverage. I wrote a letter to the state licensing board. I laid out everything in plain language. I didn't lie. I didn't exaggerate. I included the copies of falsified documents, the emails with timestamps, the financial paperwork showing my name on the loans he'd benefited from. I told them I believed in ethical medicine and that someone willing to falsify applications should be reevaluated before they're allowed near patients. I mailed it anonymously. And now I wait. 3 weeks went by. I didn't hear a thing. I kept checking the mail every day like I was expecting something. A letter, a call, a sign. But nothing came. Just bills and junk. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, Ethan showed up at my apartment. I hadn't seen him in person since the graduation. He looked different. Not tired like before. He looked pissed. He knocked once hard. I opened the door, and before I could say anything, he pushed past me into the living room. What did you do? I didn't say anything. I just shut the door and stood there. I got a call from the licensing board. They're investigating a complaint.
Fraud.
Ethics violation. They said there were documents submitted, copies of old forms. My forms. With my name on them.
He was pacing now.
His voice was getting louder. They're putting my application on hold. I might not get licensed. Do you know what that means?
I said, yeah. Ido.
He stopped and looked at me. His face went cold. You did this. I didn't deny it. I didn't have to. He shook his head. You think this is payback? Over what? A house. Some words at a ceremony. No, I said. It's not about a house. It's about who you became.
He scoffed.
You're bitter. You think you own me because you helped me. You think that means I owe you forever. I don't want anything from you, I said. I want it to matter.
To you.
That's all. He stared at me, quiet for a second. Then he laughed. Cold and short. You're pathetic.
He left.
A week later, I got a message from my old high school teacher, Mr. Baines. He still lived in town. He told me Ethan had called him, asking if there was any chance I'd back off. He said Ethan sounded desperate. Said his new job offer was pulled. Hospital didn't want to take the risk during an open ethics investigation. I said nothing. Then another letter came. This one from a debt collector. One of the loans I took out for Ethan under my name had been sold off and was now past due. They wanted $6,327. I sat with that letter for a long time. $6,000. That's what it came down to. Years of my life. Missed birthdays. Cracked hands from warehouse work. Stress headaches. Peanut butter dinners. And now I was being hounded for debt while he was living in a house I helped make possible. And our father? The one on the deed? I found out he moved in. He'd been living with Ethan for weeks. That same man who left us to starve. Now sitting on a porch I helped pay for, calling himself a father again. I didn't tell Ethan I knew. I didn't need to. But part of me wanted more. Not money. Not an apology. Just for anyone to see what I did. To say it mattered. About a month after that letter from the debt collector, I got another knock on my door. But this time it wasn't Ethan. It was a woman in a navy blazer. Clean cut, early 40s. She introduced herself as a rep from the licensing board. Said she had a few follow-up questions regarding the documents I submitted. I froze. My mouth went dry. I thought it was anonymous. I thought they wouldn't trace it back. She looked at me and said, "Don't worry. You're not in trouble. We're just trying to understand the full picture." I let her in. She sat on my old couch and pulled out a folder. She asked questions for an hour. Calmly, methodically. How I supported Ethan. How the loan was taken out. How the application was filled. She had copies of the same things I sent, but now there were other notes too. Things I hadn't seen. Then she asked something that stopped me cold. "Did you help him falsify any information knowingly?" I didn't answer right away. My throat tightened. I helped him write parts of it. But I thought it was just polishing. I didn't think it crossed a line. She nodded, didn't flinch. Then she asked, "Do you have any idea how your father became involved in his affairs again?" I hesitated. I thought he was gone. For good. She pulled out another document. A copy of an old check. $10,000. Signed by Robert J. Last name. "Your father made a private donation to the medical program 2 years ago," she said. Under a different name. But the signature matched. That money was funneled through a nonprofit that Ethan listed on his volunteer application. My stomach dropped. "You're saying the nonprofit, it wasn't real?" She just looked at me. "Did you know about that?" I shook my head. Suddenly, it wasn't just about the things I had done. It wasn't about helping Ethan write one line about volunteering. This went deeper. Money laundering deep. Application fraud tied to fake organizations. And our father, the one who abandoned us? He was pulling strings the whole time. The board was investigating both of them now. That night, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about the years I spent protecting Ethan, keeping him away from Dad, making sure he had a clean shot.
And now?
Now they were partners in the same lie. A week later, I got a voicemail. Ethan again.
His voice was slower this time.
Like something had cracked. "You win. Okay? Is that what you wanted? I might lose everything. Is that what you wanted?" I didn't call back. But something about the way he said "you win" made me feel sick. Because I didn't feel like I won anything. I just felt tired. And for the first time in my life, I wondered if maybe I'd been lied to a lot earlier than I realized. I don't know what's going to happen to him now. Maybe he'll lose his license. Maybe he won't. But the part that still sits heavy in my chest is that he looked me in the eye and said I was just filling in the gaps. And the worst part? After everything, I still would have done it all if he'd just once meant it when he said thank you. And I think that's what breaks me the most. Not what he did, but how easy it was for him to forget who I was.